everybody. Good morning. Nikki Burnett here today, Stay Life Nutrition Radio and podcast streaming live on KUHSdenver.com, where we were supposed to have a guest today, but it's always an interesting thing when we're supposed to have a guest and then I get to just sort of wing it. So it gets me out of my comfort zone a little bit, and that's okay. That's what growth is all about, is getting outside of your your comfort zone. So we are, I guess, first thing that we're going to do is start the show with gratitude. That's the easy part, right? Gratitude, I fully believe, can change the world. And I think that finding the things morning and evening and throughout the day that you're grateful for is super helpful, especially if you're having a hard day, especially if you have something going on, or, you know, life is happening and it gets tough. There's always something amazing to be grateful for. And so I think for myself, I'm grateful for so many things. I think I'm going to be grateful for something that's a little hard for me because I'm a sun girl and we've had a lot of rain. But I'm grateful for the rain because that means my garden is blooming. It's beautiful. It's really, really pretty. We've got flowers all over the place. So we need the sun, but we also need the rain. So super grateful to have the rain, but really grateful when I'm able to get outside and get in the sun and soak up a little bit of warmth in between the storms that we've had. So it's such an amazing part of time of year with the spring and the spring storms and the beautiful sun and, you know, all of the camping trips that are coming up and the fun that we always have. So I think I was trying to decide, you know, very last minute, what it was that we might want to talk about that would be interesting. If, you know, this was a topic that I could talk about on my own, you know, the topic that we were going to talk about, we were going to have Jane Sharp on. We were going to talk about raising a family and liberty and autonomy and, you know, outside of the mainstream and homeschooling and raising healthy kiddos and that kind of thing. Well, that's not stuff I know how to talk about. So we're going to talk about something totally different, and then hopefully we'll have Jane join us for another show another time because she has some really cool stuff to talk about. So, you know, prayers that she's okay, that everything's okay with her, and that it was just a mishap. So not a big deal on our end, but what I thought we would talk about today is eating with our cycle. I thought that was, I've not talked about this before. There are a lot of nuances to it, and I think so often that as women, I think as people, these days, everybody's in a hurry. Everybody just goes and does, and doesn't really think about food as much. Then that's not everybody. But I do that sometimes myself, and I love food. I love cooking, but sometimes it's just an eat and go. Or you don't eat at all, kind of like what happened to me last night. We had one of our dogs we had to take into the emergency department. So that stinks, and had to deal with that. So I ate at 10 o'clock last night, which is not something that I like to do. I don't like to eat late, but at least we were able to get her home and get a little food in my belly and then get some sleep. So, anyway, but you know, that's kind of how life is, right? We often are just going with the flow and going with life as it happens, as opposed to really being intentional. And sometimes it's just hard to be intentional, right? I mean, we all get it. So, but as women, we, you know, I think everything has cycles. We just tend to have bigger cycles, right? And more intense cycles. You know, even men, they have their own cycles, but we have different cycles due to our hormones, and of course then we have our monthly cycle, and things change on a regular basis. But if we choose our foods and choose the things that we do and the movement and the exercises and all of these things around our unique cycles as women, it can really be supportive in the hormones that we are utilizing at that time, or the spikes and the peaks and the valleys essentially of the hormones at the time. And you know, we have these times when we can really take advantage of what the hormones are doing for us, whether it's being quiet and still and being away from people, or if it's being out and about and you're super energetic. You know, this is a part of who we are as women. And so, but it's also a part, you know, if you think of seasons, right? It's about seasons. Everything cycles, and cycling together as much as possible is an amazing way to, for one, live intentionally, live in the moment, but live with the cycles, even the moon cycles, right? And so as women, those of us who are going through perimenopause and moved on into menopause, we can still cycle with the moon and do things around the moon. I know it sounds crazy and woo-woo, but I think it's super cool because it's true. You know, the electromagnetic pull, like this is outside of my understanding, but of the moon and the planets and all this stuff, it has an impact on us. And so eating with the different cycles, eating within the seasons, and eating within our own seasons can really help us to optimize and to utilize where we are in that time, either for going and doing or resting. And we have both, and I think it's important to have both. So anyway, if we are to start with our menstrual cycles, the menstrual phase, which is days 1 to 5, this is really kind of the supportive, nourishing foods time, right? This is the time where you know, we've got estrogen and progesterone are really at their lowest levels, and nutrients are lost. You know, so one of the things that I think about a lot in women, and this is not just for this phase, but for that phase as we're moving into the PMS and into this menstrual phase 1 to 5, we're losing a lot of magnesium. So probably a lot of you have noticed that, and so we're just going to talk about it, right? It is what it is. But you've probably noticed that you might be more constipated than you usually are, right? Why is that? We use up a ton of magnesium during this time. So using up magnesium, magnesium helps, you know, with, what does it not help with? It's like with everything, right? But if we don't have enough during this time, often I'm telling my women, sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit, but often I tell my women, you know how much magnesium, you can tell how much magnesium you need because you can take it to bowel tolerance, right? There's a challenge that you can do with magnesium where you are, you take it in little bits throughout the day. It doesn't take long, because it doesn't take long for you to find your limit, because you got to quickly go to the bathroom, but then you know where your limit is. You know how much magnesium you need. Likely, as you're moving into these other phases of your cycle, the magnesium is being used up and you need more. So it's a great way of starting to learn and understand your body with something as simple as magnesium, and taking it, taking it at different times in your cycle to bowel tolerance, so you know what you need. And it's miserable when we're constipated, right? So there's no reason for it to be that way when we have a way of managing it. So just know that oftentimes we have the ability to manage with magnesium. Magnesium is also calming. It helps us sleep. There are different forms that do different things, right? So it's good for brain health and brain function. There's a form, the magnesium threonate, great for brain function. The glycinate, great for muscles. The citrate, great for movements. And then they kind of all, you know, there's some different ones. But magnesium is a great way to start learning your body and understanding what you can do during your cycle to help you through the cycle move through it better. And a lot of women experience a lot of pain. Magnesium can help with that too. But here's the biggest thing. Massive symptoms during our cycles are abnormal. This is not okay. I've had clients who are, you know, going to the emergency department monthly because they're in so much pain or they're passing out, right? This is not okay. It's very abnormal. Symptoms are not normal. So if you're having symptoms, whether it's, you know, all month long or if it's a couple of days, what is it that's causing those symptoms that you can then take a step back and start to say, how do I manage this? How do I balance my hormones to a point where I am no longer having symptoms? And it's not always easy, but there is a way of doing it. And knowing that it's not normal means then that you either, do your due diligence and do the research and look for ways of managing it, or you find somebody who knows already and who can help you, right? This is why we do lab testing. Lab testing is huge in helping us understand our bodies and us as unique individuals, because we are all really beautifully unique individuals. And I have never worked with a single person the same way, 99% of the time. So anyway, so as we are focusing on these days 1 to 5, replenishing nutrients, of course, iron and zinc, and supporting inflammation, because there can be an inflammatory response during this time. Also, think about this as women. Think about, the time of the month when what you're craving. So I think so often, during this time, you're craving the warm and the nourishing foods, the comforting foods. I find this is also very seasonal for myself, and I think for most people. And it's so interesting because I literally can feel the change in my body. So if I'm moving into fall, this is when I want to start making the bone broth. This is when I start making soups and stews, and it's hot and comfortable and warm and cozy. And as soon as the sun starts coming out in the spring, I'm like, all right, bone broth is done. I don't need it anymore. So I have 5 frozen packages of bone broth now in my freezer because I made too much. Well, I didn't make too much. I'll still use it. Have no fear. We'll continue to use it. But I love that because I can save it and then I can have it. And then I'm building up throughout the summer months. I'm building up all of the bones that I collect with chicken bones. We just made rib bones, right? All of these bones and cartilages and the vegetables. So think about your I'm a little bit all over the place today, but that's okay. You can follow me. Think about your broccoli stems and the cauliflower butts and the things that are edible, but we just don't eat because it's not pretty, which is really silly. But take that stuff and stick it in the freezer. So I always end up, by the time summer's over or, kind of moving into fall, I have bags and bags of bones and vegetables that I'm ready to start putting in my I have a huge pot. It's a huge pot. But I'm starting to I'm ready to put in my pot so I can start making bone broth. It just makes it so simple and so easy, and that way we're using all parts of the animal. We're using the bones. It's super nourishing. And so if you do that, then during, if you're still cycling during these days 1 to 5, you have ready access to these warming, healing, comforting, nourishing foods like bone broth. And then you can take bone broth as a base, right? So take it as a base for your soups and your stews and whatever it is that you like to cook. I had a friend of mine just the other day bring me a spice jar of pho spice. So excited to use that. I can't wait. All right, let's see. Iron-rich foods, obviously going to be things like grass-fed meat, spinach, dark leafy greens, and that kind of thing. But let's talk about the differences between meat, beef specifically, like red meat, and which is high in iron, and then things like spinach, because we have those who believe that vegetarian and veganism is a way of life. I see it as a diet. It's a therapeutic diet, which in my mind means it's not long-term, but it can be therapeutic. But there are a lot of things that are missing if we're doing a vegan or a vegetarian diet. And so we hear, through, whoever talks about this stuff, that we can get all of our iron we need from our spinach and leafies and that kind of thing. This is a non-heme type of iron, whereas red meat is heme iron. And that's much more bioavailable from beef or from red meat than it is from spinach or any of your leafies, right? So it's great to have both. We want to have both, but what if you're a vegetarian and you have issues with anti-nutrients like oxalates and phytates and these things that are super problematic for the body and can be really irritating and can be problematic if you have autoimmune condition. All of these things can really play against us if we're vegetarian or vegan and trying to manage conditions. It can also play against us just if we're just trying to, optimize and be healthy. So having on board animal-based products, let me back up. I've been there. I've been vegetarian, I've been vegan, I've done the whole thing. And I did part of it to understand what my dad was going through, because my dad decided he wanted to be vegan. And then, of course, all I did was eat beans and rice and a little bit of veg, so it shot his blood sugar through the roof. Side note, but think about that one. Anyway, so I think when I decided to go back to school, sort of my midlife crisis, call it what you want, but wanted to go back to school for nutrition, I was vegan. And I'd been vegan for a year, and then determined through the data, through the research, through the learning and understanding, it probably didn't take 3 or 4 months into school that I just had this, this realization that being a vegan long-term is not a lifestyle. Now, I will go back genetically. We have different, we are made differently. We are from different parts of the world. So some of us need different amounts of protein, some of us need different amounts of fats, different amounts of carbs. We're all made beautifully and perfectly, uniquely different, but we still need protein. And I'll say, even if you tend to be a low protein genotype or phenotype like I am, as we move into this place of perimenopause and menopause, we need more protein. And I've noticed this within the last couple of years, just within my own industry, this world of health and wellness and nutrition and functional medicine and all of these things, that there is a huge push to increase our protein intake. What does protein do? Protein helps us to build hormones. It helps us to, they break down into amino acids. Amino acids then build our muscles. It builds our enzymes, whether they're digestive or proteolytic, builds our enzymes. Enzymes are catalysts. Enzymes are what make everything happen in the body, right? If we don't have the enzymes, then metabolic pathways just don't happen properly, right? And so neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are built by amino acids. So protein is key. Interestingly, too, is that protein is only 30% absorbed. I only recently learned that. So fascinating to me, but there are things we can do. There's a protein powder that I really like that I think is great, and it's 99% absorbed. So, it's just the amino acids. So sometimes, depending on our situation, if we're not getting enough protein, maybe we supplement with some amino acids, right? But not always necessary. So, anyway, getting back to it, animal products are really, really important. You think about fish oil. We've got to have our omegas. Now, we can get that from some types of, not seaweed, what's my word? Algae. But it's the levels are much lower, and it's much more expensive. So, but there's so many things that, if you look at the science and the data behind eating animal products, is that if we don't, we're missing. And God made us beautifully and perfectly, and according to what we know today, made us to be meat eaters. So, let's see. Moving on. Oh, speaking of omega-3s, obviously, so this is another one. So many fun things. I'm cheating because I'm looking at some notes that I've made in the past, since we're doing this kind of off the cuff a little bit. But looking at omega-3s. So omega-3s come from fish oils, right? But what we hear in the world of natural health is that walnuts and chia seeds and hemp seeds and all of these things, we can get plenty of our omega-3s from these from these plant sources. So it's not the case, because fish oil is already DHA and EPA, which is the form that we use, that is the precursor to the anti-inflammatory part of the body, right? The part of the immune system that's anti-inflammatory. Now we also have a pro-inflammatory part of the immune system, which is the omega-6. So omega-6s are the precursor. We've got to have both, right? There's a balance there. The thing with the walnuts and the hemp seeds and so forth is they have to be converted from ALA into EPA and DHA. And so that conversion, due to our own genetics, can be inefficient, or it may not happen at all. So you might be eating your weight in, walnuts and hemp seeds and all of these nice, beautiful vegetarian foods, but you're not getting the omegas that you need because your body doesn't utilize it, or the conversion is not efficient enough. So it goes back to animal-based really is what makes sense, and that's how we're created. Again, you can do the algae form, and that's fine. But I fully believe that the animal-based form is what we're supposed to have. Doesn't mean though that the chias and the hemps and the walnuts are not necessary, because they totally are. They're great fats and great for us. High calorie, which I try not to. I don't want to worry too much about calories, but we can get too much energy from these things if we're eating too much all the time, which is going to help either keep us stable if we're trying to lose weight, or possibly help us to gain weight. Some people need to gain weight. Somebody comes to me and they're like, I need to put weight on. Those are the things I'm going to feed them. So I will eat a few on most days, and that's about it. So, okay. So inflammation during the times where we are menstruating, it can it can push cramping, and so the omega-3s are anti-inflammatory, so can help to decrease the cramping. So obviously staying hydrated, right? I mean, we have to drink enough water. Good, clean, clear, distilled, healthy water is going to be the best. If you're drinking out of the tap, you're drinking toxins. If you're drinking out of the tap, you're drinking fluoride, you're drinking chlorine, you're drinking parasites. I mean, it's disgusting. So a filter is not great, like a refrigerator filter is not great. They don't do much for us. You can get better and better filters. And what I am learning and have been learning over the past few years, is distilled really is best. A lot of people will ask the question, I did the same thing, is if you're drinking distilled water, you're taking out all the minerals, so the minerals are then leached out of your body. We're eating food all day, every day. Not all day, but we're eating food constantly, right? So we're going to be replacing minerals by in our body, and then drinking the water. So, there's a balancing act there. But what I do it for me, I do it for my dogs, is I will put minerals in my water, but I'm drinking distilled water. It's the only way to get out radiation. Here in Colorado, we've got a ton of radiation in the earth. So it's one of the, we have our homes tested for it, right? So, but being sure, it's the only way to truly be sure that you are drinking the cleanest water possible. And so I have sitting on my counter a little distiller. It was, $270, so not crazy expensive. And I'm going to tell you too that I've not experienced this myself, but I've talked to a lot of practitioners who, when they have clients who are struggling and they're not making a lot of movement, they've changed their water to good, clean water, and it made all the difference in the world. I have a patient right now who, she's super clean. Everything she does, she's super clean, but she's drinking well water. Her toxic load is massive. And so I don't know for sure that that's where her toxins are coming from, but we can't figure out where else it would be coming from. So we need to really consider what our water is doing to us. And, we're told we need to drink, a ton of water every day. We got to drink clean, clear water. Another thought is some of us will go and we'll drink it out of a plastic bottle. I was in Kansas in 105-degree weather back several years ago. I took a picture of this, actually posted it on Facebook. But all of these plastic bottles were baking in the sun. That water is incredible. incredibly, incredibly toxic. So we don't know if we're pulling water that's in a plastic bottle out of, you know, wherever we're buying it. We don't know where it's been. We don't know how hot it's been. So that plastic likely has leached all into that water. What does the plastic do? Going back to our cycles, the plastic, those toxins are estrogen mimickers. They're xenoestrogens. They're endocrine disruptors, which means we get in all of these plastics, all of these pesticides and herbicides that act like estrogen, but bad, really bad estrogen. So it binds to our natural estrogen receptor sites, and it blocks our own natural estrogen. So when we have these crazy wonky cycles and a lot of pain, and you know, the premenstrual dysphoric, you know, syndromes, and you know, all of these things where, you know, there's a lot of rage and anger and uncontrollable stuff going on, this is often due to the environment that we're living in, the food that we're putting in our bodies, the things that we're putting on our hair and our skin, the things we're washing our clothes with, the things that we are cleaning our homes with, right? So we want to really take a step back and look at what is all around us and what we're putting in us, because it all matters. I clean my home with vinegar and some essential oils and some orange oil, and that's really kind of it, right? If you don't know this, go to environmentalworkinggroup.org. Huge database for helping you to understand what's in your skincare products, what's in your, you know, cleaning products, what's in your makeup and your hair and your, you know, I mean, everything. So you can put in the name, like a brand name, or you can put in like individual ingredients, and that will help you to determine what it is that you can do, or what it is that is in your environment. But also, you can just put in shampoo and it will show, like any shampoo. So right, just put in shampoo into their search bar, and it will show you the ones that are EWG verified. It will show you the ones that are in A, B, C, D, E, or F. I'm going to tell you how many times I've put something in, not as much anymore, but that it came up as an F, right? Even I did a laundry soap one time that I thought was great. Like, this is good stuff, you know, and it was a good price. I finally put it in because I didn't think about it. This was not that long ago, and I think about this stuff all the time, and it was an F. And so this is the stuff where we got to think about, you know, our laundry detergents are sitting on our clothes, sitting on our sheets. Our babies, our kids, our dogs, our cats are breathing in these fumes, and it's super disruptive to everything. On top of sitting, it's toxic. It sits in tissues. You know, if it sits in tissues, we can't lose weight. It creates inflammation, right? So, I mean, the list goes on and on. But going to, you know, in the environmentalworkinggroup.org, I just lost my notes. Anyway, now we're really going to wing it. Anyway, but EWG.org is a great resource for anything that is, there we go. So frustrating and a little bit scary, right? But, for learning about you and learning about what you're using. Okay, so I'll get off of that and calm down a little bit, being afraid that all my notes were gone. So obviously avoiding things that are inflammatory. What's inflammatory? Sugar is certainly inflammatory. Processed foods are inflammatory. All of the chemicals, all of the toxins that we put in our food for whatever horrible reason, I don't know. Thank God for RFK, who's helping to get that crap out of our foods and out of our kids' foods. Oh, it's just, it's awful. But, you know, the gluten and dairy for most people are going to be not toxic, they're going to be inflammatory. Not everyone. Gluten, if it is an heirloom grain and if it's organic and not full of pesticides and herbicides, it might be okay for some people. But some people just genetically, they've got variants. There are, I think, at least 5 variants that can make us susceptible to gluten sensitivity. And then there are a couple of other variants that make us susceptible to autoimmune disease and celiac disease. So I have several of those. I've seen one time in my entire time of practicing, I've seen one person who had 0 SNPs or variants to having the potential to being sensitive to gluten. So the problem is all the pesticides and herbicides that are put on it, the way we mess with our food, we increase the gluten content. It's just, if you go over to Europe, wheat is a very different animal, right? Or very different grain. It's totally different. It's heirloom. It's unprocessed. It's the way God made it, right? And then we over here decide we want to go and screw with it. Don't know why. But anyway, so gluten and dairy. Dairy for some people also can be a good food. Now, let's see, how much time do we have? Oh, not very long. Okay, I'll get into dairy another time, and into the real deep levels of dairy. But dairy is one of those things that for some people genetically they can take, and then for some people they can't. But also, dairy from off the shelf has been it's been homogenized. It has been pasteurized. It's no longer a food. The body doesn't recognize it, doesn't know what it is, doesn't know how to deal with it. So what does it do? It just creates mucus, right? Or an inflammatory response. So for most people, if we're looking to decrease inflammation, because dairy can increase inflammation, we want to avoid it. Eggs are beautiful. They're one of the most amazing things in the world. Some people are super sensitive, but for some people who are already inflamed, eggs can be pushed down that inflammatory pathway, increasing inflammation. So we got to think about that. That's why eggs are not on an autoimmune protocol. You got to learn your body, but eggs can be super problematic for some people. Okay. So, things that can be really great for including at this time as well are, things like sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are amazing. If you've not had a purple or a white sweet potato, you're totally missing out because they're so good. So those really great complex carbohydrates are really so delicious. Beets, so good. Okay, so we're looking now. Lost my spot. Okay, so follicular phase. So this is days 6 to 14. And this is when, if you notice, this is when you feel good. You're energized, you're excited, you're ready to go out, you can network, you can mingle, you can do all of the things, right? It's like you're superwoman. So this is a great time to really to take advantage of those energy levels. So maybe you learn something new, and maybe you go out with friends, or whatever the case may be that you need. But this is the time when estrogen's starting to rise, energy's going up, you're feeling like a superwoman, and it's so fun. And so this is a great time for the light foods, right? Light foods, light salads, light chicken, light salmon, all of these things that are light and simple and easy and kind of keep you going. Raw food, smoothies, things like that. Now, real quick to back up, if you're drinking smoothies, I want you to drink smoothies, but I want you to chew your smoothies. So put something in them that makes you chew them. Chewing smoothies, like make a smoothie bowl instead or something, but you've got to release those digestive enzymes in the mouth, right? And then throughout the body. So that's what chewing does. It triggers digestive enzyme release. And so if you're only drinking your food, you're not triggering that release. So let's see, great cruciferous vegetables, your broccolis, your cauliflowers, your Brussels sprouts. I love roasted cauliflower. I love cauliflower as cauliflower rice. It's so yummy. So those are really great. They're also great for helping to detoxify, right? They help to move out excess estrogen, especially these xenoestrogens that we don't need. We've got to make sure our detox pathways are working properly. Beautiful prebiotic rich foods, your asparagus, your garlic, your onions. If you're one of those people who doesn't do well with garlic and onions, think that there's something going on that you need to address, right? So you can have true allergies to these things, but a lot of times if it's creating bloating and discomfort and that kind of thing, there can be infections, there can be things going on that can be managed and that need to be managed. So know that these are symptoms. Always listen to what your body's trying to tell you, because it's always talking to you. Don't just squash it with Advil or something. Okay, let's move on to the ovulatory phase. So this is another time when we want to focus on the anti-inflammatory and the antioxidant foods. So oxidative stress happens all the time. It's a natural part of the body. You know, as the mitochondria create ATP, it creates oxidative stress, but it can be a real problem when there's too much, right? So the toxins in our environment can create oxidative stress. If we have SNPs or variants that don't allow us to convert glutathione and utilize glutathione, then we can have higher oxidative stress. You know, so all of these factors, both internal and epigenetic and external, that can really increase our oxidative stress, pushing inflammation, and then of course pushing disease, right? So this is a time where, you know, if we're ovulating, there's gonna be extra oxidative stress. You know, there's a lot going on here. The mitochondria is, you know, firing, right? And so eating the foods that are, you know, have the polyphenols, you know, your bright red beets and your blueberries and your pomegranates and all of these, you know, really beautifully colored foods. Those are going to be really great for antioxidants. They're going to be great antioxidants. Okay. So, dark chocolate, right? I mean, everybody loves chocolate for the most part, right? I like it fine, but it's one of those things that can help with building serotonin, interestingly, which is our happy hormone. So, dark chocolate can be great during this time. Let's see. Green tea, sorry, I lost my spot. Green tea, you know, the brightly colored fruits and vegetables, fatty fish, turmeric, ginger. These are all great for reducing inflammation. And then, you know, your good high fiber foods, so your nuts and your seeds. Some people can do legumes, some people can't do legumes. I'm a little bit on the fence with those, but it really just depends on the person, and of course drinking a lot of water. This is a time where, as women, our testosterone is rising, you know, our libido is rising. There's a lot going on, so it's a really good time to just kind of have fun with it, right? Kind of have fun with food and what all is happening during this beautiful time with your partner. All right, oh, wrong spot. So moving on to the luteal phase, which is days 18 to 28. So this is a time, again, going back to blood sugar stability and nutrient-dense comfort food. So after ovulation, you know, things kind of start to come down, and we start to calm down, and we kind of go into this, not dark in a bad place, but it's a quiet, lower level, lower energy level time of reflection. You know, maybe take it for reading, maybe take it for resting, take naps, take care of yourself. You know, this is a time to, it's like winter, right? Essentially, or fall, winter time. And so, you know, think about this also as you're going through your cycles, and where you are, where we are as a season can be super beneficial. But, you know, this is great time for, you know, getting back to the sweet potatoes and the avocados and the nuts and seeds and olive oil. All of these things are anti-inflammatory. They stabilize blood sugar, and they're comforting, right? And so we do have times of potential cravings, right? You have PMS, you crave. Genetically or epigenetically, I have sweet tooth variants anyway. So I'm constantly battling a sweet tooth. So I have ways of trying to manage that in my own home. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But usually if I have a sweet tooth, I'm going to go for a little bit of honey, or I'm going to go for a piece of fruit. Every now and then I might go for a piece of chocolate, right? So, you know, manage the way you manage, but think about having the things that are accessible to you, that are going to feed you, going to give you what you need, but also help to squash that sweet tooth, right? Honey is great for that. Honey is really good at the microbiome, the oral microbiome. We talked a little bit about this last week. The gut microbiome. It is antimicrobial. It can help with allergies. Honey is this really beautiful gift from God. It's pretty cool stuff. So, you know, but, you know, some people say it spikes blood sugar. Some people it doesn't. I think it's going to be different for everyone. If you wear a continuous glucose monitor, I think that's a really smart thing. I had one on a couple of weeks ago. My second one died, so I don't have it on, but I'm looking forward to it because it's so interesting to find the things to understand what spikes your blood sugar. And then there are certain variants that can create more of a blood sugar spike than it would for other people. So going back to understanding who you are as a person, you're not everybody else. And just because, you know, there are certain foods that the world says is going to spike your blood sugar doesn't mean it's going to. But just because they say it's not going to doesn't mean that it won't. So think about, you know, these cool tools that we have that can help us to manage our body, manage our blood sugar, understand who we are. And something that I forgot about, thinking of that, is I forgot to talk about our sponsor, who is the amazing Susan Drake of Mountain Medical Concepts. So I have her one of her products back behind me, Pnoe. Pnoe is this really cool VO2 Max that it's you'll find it's sold only to practices, right? And it's usually mostly these regenerative practices. But it's a great way to understand your body. And so you put on the mask and you're doing your workout, but it is a full view of your body, how it's functioning, and how we can optimize in order to, you know, I hate the word longevity. Everybody talks about longevity. It really is about living as well as we can for as long as we're here. We don't know what's going to happen in the next minute, in the next hour, in the next day. But I damn sure want to live as well as I possibly can for all of the minutes, hours, and days and years that I'm here. So this is a great way to help you to optimize, to live the best that you can, to know what it's going to take to be better, to feel better, is with something like a VO2 Max. Really cool technology. You'll find it at your local, you know, regenerative medicine clinic. But if you are someone, if you're a client, if you're a patient, if you are looking for something to help you optimize, ask for it, right? Ask for something like this Pnoe VO2 Max. It's simple, it's easy, and can give you a ton of information. And with this Pnoe specifically, it takes in all of your other labs. So if you're doing stool testing or antioxidant testing or food sensitivity testing or blood panels or whatever the case may be, you can put it all in together and really have this beautiful, as it says here, 360-degree view of your body. Awesome stuff. I mean, that's, you know, it's like cheating the system a little bit. You know, we can really dig into who we are, and it's super fun stuff. So if you are a practitioner, reach out to Susan if you have questions about Pnoe. If you are a patient then or a client, then you can just find it and ask for it. It's good stuff. It's a lot of fun. So, let's see. Oh, sorry. Moving on. Oh, going back to days 18 to 28, the luteal phase. Again, this is a great time to reach for those magnesium-rich foods, right? So magnesium is super important for this time. So think your leafy greens, your pumpkin seeds, almonds. All of these things are great to help with bloating. Oh, that was my worst, I swear. So bloating, the mood swings, the cravings, that kind of thing. B vitamins are super important for detoxification and many, many other things. But they're going to help with energy levels. And we've gotten away from organ meats. And I'm one of those. I can't stand the thought of eating liver. It grosses me out. And I have done it in the past. What you can get like liver and put it in the freezer and cut off little chunks, and so you swallow it like a pill. Sometimes you still get the flavor. It's just too much. So you can get it in supplement form. I am not one to tell you ever to take a whole food and put it in a capsule. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's like turmeric. Why would you put it in a capsule? It doesn't make any sense. But if you can't stand the flavor and it's so nutrient dense, I think it's an important one to get in no matter what. I actually have glandulars and organ meats that are in supplement form that I give to my dogs because it's hard to get, for whatever reason, good, like a lot of organ meats and glandulars from butchers around, so I get it in supplement form. And so when I'm feeding my dogs, I'm giving them their organ meats and their glandulars, I'm taking it as well. My dogs get pretty much everything that's human grade. And I can't help myself but to say, food is not human food, food is food. So dogs deserve real food no matter what, right? So, going back to, things that are really great too, is this is a time of calming. So chamomile and peppermint teas, or even just the essential oils. Those are going to be really great for calming, for relaxation, for avoiding discomfort, that kind of thing. So you can if you're syncing your nutrition and your workouts with your cycle, you know, if you think about this time for a workout would be yoga, Pilates, going to the sauna, stuff like that would be really great for this time. But if you are, say, in your ovulatory phase, that's the time where you want to maybe go do kickboxing and go do CrossFit and all of these really, really fast, heavy, big movements that are, require a lot of energy. So think about that as you're going through your cycle as well. Let's see, what else do we want to talk about here? So, the things that can happen that can be really beneficial when you're syncing your cycle with food is several things. You can optimize hormone balance. There's something called seed cycling. If you haven't heard of it, seed cycling is a way of eating specific seeds at a specific time to help promote specific hormones. So it can help to balance hormones. It's just food. It's super cool the way that it works. But it can balance hormones. It can help with symptoms that you're having. So seed cycling is one of those things that you're working with food and your cycle. If you're connecting the two, again, supports gut health and detoxification, improves mood and energy, and enhances fertility and menstrual health for those who are looking for it. So I think it's a great way of looking at the body and learning to listen to the body. For those of us as women who, we have so many issues around our hormones that can be managed. But taking the time to sync your cycles and think about your food during each cycle and think about your needs during each cycle and not pushing too hard or not pushing hard enough during certain times, right? Can be really beneficial for helping us to move through, to feel good, to be as optimal as we can during this time, and then be productive and help our partners and spouses and kids and families know what it is that we need during these times, so everybody's happy, right? When mom is happy, everybody's happy. That's what I heard. So I think that's pretty good today. I'm sorry again that Jane wasn't able to join us, but I do hope that she can join us again. She has a lot of great things to say. So we'll try to have her on again, hopefully soon. I don't know, gosh, I'm booked out probably I think through September, but we'll get her back on as soon as we can. But if you have any questions, thoughts, needs, if there are topics that you want to talk about, that you want me to talk about, that you're curious about, let me know. Feel free to put them in the comments, to reach out to me. Let me know. You can go to the website tastelifenutrition.com. All of my contact information is there. You can also fill out a form. It's an assessment. Just kind of goes through the different organ systems and mental and emotional stuff and pains and that kind of thing. Gives me an idea of sort of a superficial idea of what might be going on and how I might be able to help, or if there's somebody I know who might be better suited to help you with whatever it is that you're going through. So that's my goal, really, is to be of service and to do my best to whether it's to be a guide, to teach, or to be taught, right? I love to learn. It's the best thing in the world. And Latoya, I see you on there. I know you love to learn too. So thanks for joining us. Sorry today was a little bit random, but this, we go with the flow, right? So anyway, looking forward to next week. We'll see you next week. I think it's just me again next week. I promise to be a little more prepared for the show next week. But anyway, join us every week, 10 a.m. here, streaming live on kuhsdenver.com. And then we'll see you at 10 o'clock next week. Thanks, everybody. Bye.